Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we are back in War Thunder, and before we get into the main topic of this video, I do want to update you on some stuff which has been happening in the news. There is a news article on update 1.77, the pre-order packs that you can get, the MB5, the MAGAC, and of course the AMX30. Now for me personally, I don't think the AMX30 is a good buy, just because the fact that we don't really have a true top tier French tank right now. The one which has been added, the Brenu, is, well, it's pretty much just an AMX30 but with the ERA on it, something that doesn't give it a massive advantage. And therefore, I just don't really see the point in getting it. Until they add something which is a bit more meaty, maybe some rank 6 vehicles, then it might be worth picking it up. The MB5, I think, is overshadowed by the Griffin Spitfires that you can get as premium vehicles in the game already. But for me, if you like the history of the Martin Baker series of aircraft, I definitely think it is a good pickup. It flies extremely well, it has a really good dive speed, it feels very nice to fly, but obviously the main issue is it's not as good as some of the Griffin Spits that we have. The other pack is the MAGAC 3, which I think is the most solid out of the 3 packs that we have. The MAGAC is a combination of an M48 and an M60. Pretty much the way I like to talk about it, it's a M48 which has the M60's gun. It has an improved engine, and it also has a lower cupola. Now overall, this machine will be good at 7.7, but it all comes down to if you like that 105 or not. I've talked to a few people about it, and there are definitely mixed impressions of the 105, so therefore, if you like that gun, then you should definitely go for it. Also, with the Abrams being released, this is the only top tier pack that we have available right now, which is new, which is going to be any good at grinding out the Abrams or any of the new rank 6 vehicles. Moving on, we have another article, which is the Rocket's new chant, new sounds for the MLRS. So we are getting different sounds in the game for guns, for specific engines, environmental sounds and all of that, and on top of it, rockets are also getting some new sounds. So I'm going to play the video here, it's only 17 seconds long, and you can have a look and listen for yourself. So the main thing to talk about in this video is something that a lot of people have referred to as an issue that jets have, but it seems like the issue is coming over to tanks as well. When the MBT, KPZ, T64A, and the, what was the other one? The Chieftain Mark 10 were added, all of these vehicles were set at a lower BR than they are right now. And the reason that they were supposedly set here was so that these new vehicles were able to get into matches and be able to get statistics on them so Gaijin could work out where to put them BR-wise. This created the 9.0 that we have in tanks right now, and it seems like the same issue is happening with the tanks that we're getting now, which are a massive upgrade over their counterparts, apart from maybe the Leopard 2K, which you could say is comparable to the KPZ, but the T64B, it is a direct upgrade over the T64A in every way possible, and where it doesn't have the direct upgrade, it is not worse than it. It is either the same as or better The gun itself is better, it has more variety with the ATGMs, the turret itself is better, it has more armor, the upper glacis has a little bit more armor, the speed is very much the same, the reload is very similar, but overall the T64B is a direct upgrade over the A. So the fact that on the dev server it is the same BR as the T64A, in my opinion, makes no sense. If we look at the Abrams, the MBT-70 is seen as one of the first prototype vehicles that the Abrams had. You had the MBT-70, then you had the one I can never remember the name of, then you have the XM1, it was an XM something. If you actually look at it, it looks very similar to the MBT-70. But then you had the XM1, the XM2, and then you had the M1 Abrams, which is what's coming to game. So we have a prototype of actual produced vehicle at the same BR. And if you want to compare the MBT to the Abrams, the only thing the MBT may have over the Abrams is its ability to be able to accelerate. But we didn't test that on the dev server, so that is even speculation on that part. So, once again, to me it looks like a complete direct upgrade, but they're both sat at the same BR. The Leopard 2K is actually sat at a lower BR. It's sat at 8.7. Then the KPZ is sat at 9.0, showing that they believe that this is worse than the KPZ. I think the Leopard 2K is better than it just because of its speed and its maneuverability, and also the reload, which is nearly twice, well, depending on your crew skill, is nearly twice as fast as the MBT KPZ autoloader, which cannot be affected by crew skill. And the biggest one, the Challenger. The Challenger to the Chieftain Mark X is insanity to think that these two vehicles should be at the same BR. The Mark X does have the Stillbrew armor on the turret. The Challenger has Chobham armor, which is significantly better than it. They both have the same weaknesses when it comes to the lower glacis, but the Chieftain does not have the speed of the Challenger, it does not have the reload of the Challenger, and it does not have the versatility of the Challenger when we talk about being able to go around the map, the reload speed, the insane turrets rotation. All of these things add to the Challenger being a significantly better vehicle than the Chieftain Mark X. But the issue is, once again, is that they're both at 9.0. Now, once again, the reason has been trotted out there for, in the Q&A that I talked about the other, when was it? It was a few days ago, I think, the update 1.77 Q&A that they did, and they once again said that these vehicles are at 9.0 or around 9.0, so they're able to get matches, and they're able to get statistics on them to work out where their actual BR should be. But in my opinion, a little bit of common sense needs to be thrown out there with this one. When we have direct upgrades in the form of the T64A to the B, prototypes going to produce versions in the form of the MBT-70 to the Abrams. If we have, once again, you could even say the Chieftain is a prototype of the Challenger if you want to, really, but it is a, you know, there's a bigger spectrum in there. You have the MBT-80, the Chieftain 900, stuff like that. But you could even say that the Challenger is significantly better than the Chieftain, not in just its maneuverability, but its technology that it has on board, which does play a part in the game in the form of the armor. So, common sense has to be applied here, saying that these vehicles are comparable to the vehicles that we already have in game, in my opinion, is just lunacy. It is insane to think that they are in any way comparable, and even if you don't want to think about it in that way, and of course, the thing I have to say is this is the dev server, or at least the values were on the dev server. It seems like we're going to get this update in the next few days, so I can't see them changing that much. So I believe they are going to be a 9.0 and 8.7 for the Leopard 2K when they're released. But anyway, back to the actual point. I'm not really worried about an MBT going up against a T64B. Because the feeling is, in my mind, is it's going to have to do exactly the same what it does to kill a T64A. Going up against the Leopard 2K, it's going to be exactly the same playstyle when it faces something like a KPZ-70. And then on top of that, the Challenger, which is going to be its biggest opponent, it still has weak spots on the front of it. If you look at the new vehicles, if you look at the M1 Abrams, the Challenger, and also the T64B, they all have weak spots in their driver's optics, meaning that you can hit it. Now, the MBT's gun has had its accuracy reduced over time, meaning that penning or hitting that point over distance is going to be hard, but it can still do it. It still can be able to, even though there is obviously a very big difference between the power levels of these things. What I'm worried about is the people who are playing 8.0 and 8.3. These areas are nowhere near equipped to be able to deal with the onslaught of what these tanks are going to bring. We are now talking about nearly 30 years, or even 30 years worth of technology having to attack each other. The Challenger, in all intensive purposes, is a 90s tank. A lot of the tanks you find around 8.0, 8.3 are either 60s to 70s tanks. So let's go at a conservative estimate and say it's 70s. That is still around at least 15 to 20 years different in tank design, which was a massive explosion when we look especially at armor and maneuverability. When we look at the engine of the Challenger compared to the Chieftain Mark X. So if you start getting these 8.0s and these 8.3 vehicles versus the Abrams, the Challenger, even the T64B, it's going to be absolute hell for these vehicles. And a lot of people have compared it to when 8.0 jets face 9.0 jets. And I can completely understand that idea, but in my opinion, it would be if 8.0 jets were facing rank 6 jets, which had air-to-air missiles, which had ways of going more than Mach 1 and stuff like that. I think the technological difference between 8.0 tanks and 9.0, these new 9.0 tanks, is about as comparable to if you had rank 6 jets with all the new bells and whistles that they will probably have, compared to 8.0 vehicles that 8.0 jets that we have in game right now. You're not as fast as them. They will never engage you at a range where you'll be able to hit them, and you'll be dead before you see them. Because it is such a massive upgrade in everything when we look at 8.0, 8.3 compared to 9.0. Now, the easy fix for this, before this patch hits, which is going to be very soon, is obviously to be able to increase the BR of these vehicles to a 9.3, 9.7 battle rating. And for this, you would still be able to get matches in them, because people will still be grinding them. You will have the people on the first day who will gold out their vehicles, and that is the case with everything. When it comes to new vehicles, people will just gold them, especially if they really like them. And with the Abrams, well, it seems like there's a lot of hype for it, so that will happen. So you're going to get those types of people. And instead of just letting them annihilate everything at 8.0 and 8.3, and then you get a bunch of people who, instead of playing 8.0 and 8.3, will just play 7.7, like they kind of do anyway now, what will happen is, if you put these tanks around 9.7, they would only have to face 9.0s and 8.7s, and they would face the people who are grinding out these new rank 6 vehicles, instead of the people who are stuck slightly lower than them. Is it an issue of BR compression right now? No, I don't think so. I think that would be the wrong word for it. The issue is right now is the necessity for Gaijin in their minds to be able to get statistics on these new vehicles in order to be able to balance them, instead of just taking a step back and just putting a little bit of thought into what's going to happen when things get up-tiered into these. Now, the other suggestion is obviously to put a wall between ranks, or at least certain ranks. I've talked about this in the past, putting a wall between propeller aircraft and jets with some overlays. Like, I don't see the Yak-15P being an issue for propeller planes. What I see as an issue for propeller planes are 7.0 and 7.3 jets. So if you put a wall between, let's say 7.0 and the rest of the planes, then I don't think there would be as much issues as there are right now, where you get 6.3, 6.7 propellers against 7.3 jets and they just annihilate you and there's nothing you can do. Well, in tanks, this new concept could also be added, but instead of putting it at, you know, something as low as 6.7, 7.0, you can have a look at the higher tanks, maybe put it at 8.7. The 8.7 vehicles that we have, the M60 Rise, the Leopard 2K, which is coming, are designed to deal, or at least to be combat effective, against the vehicles that fight at 9.0 right now. The vehicles at 9.0 obviously are combat effective against themselves, but the issue is 8.3 and 8.0, so putting a straight blank wall between that may be the way to go. Now, this does mean a lot of people will play 8.3 if this is done, and they will get into a lot of 7.3 matches. But I'm okay with that, because I think the leap between 7.3 to 8.3 is a lot more manageable than the leap that I see happening between 8.0 and 9.0 right now, which is going to come in the next few days. So hopefully this does get addressed, because it is going to be an issue. No matter how you know, you think about it. It was already an issue before, when the technology wasn't increased that much. When we look at update 1.71, when the MBT, the KPZ, the T64A, all of these vehicles are added, including the M60 Rise, before the Baglet Panzer, the Chieftain Mark 10 was in that update as well. When these were added at 8.7, which I believe is where they were, or maybe 8.3, basically the top BR that we had, it caused a lot of issues, not for the people who are already around that BR, but the people who were sat in the 7.7 area, which were getting constantly up-tiered and absolutely shat on. I want to try and create a system which gets rid of that issue, and the only two options in my head is either to increase the BR, so instead of being at 9.0, we maybe go up to 10.0 or 9.7. I think 9.7 works better. Or you put a straight wall up. And since they haven't put a wall up in the past, and instead they've decided to increase the breadth of the BR range, I feel like that would be the option to go with. I still think that a wall is eventually going to be necessary, especially in jets when we get the rank 6 vehicles. I already think it's necessary between propellers and jets, but once we get these new rank 6 jets, once again, it's another massive technological advance that we have. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think we're going to get a lot of annoyed people when the update drops, and a lot of people who, instead of playing the 8.0, 8.3s, are going to play 7.7 and just sit there in their Object 120s, their Magacs, and they're going to fight, you know, between themselves, while the top tiers won't be able to get matches anyway, because nobody wants to fight the new golded out vehicles. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and I'll definitely be looking at the statistics for how many battles actually take place at the higher tiers. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a nice day.